If you would take your worship guide and turn to the page on the back that says, Honor Thy Mother. I don't know about you, if your mom had these snappy little quips that she would fire off at you or not, like, when you shoot your eye out with that BB gun, don't come looking for me. Or if you fall off that slide and break your neck, you're not going to the store with me. You ever had any of those like that? Or you cut your legs off with that pocket knife, don't come crawling to me or something like that. Don't come running to me. I found some other mom quotes. Might be in the Bible, they might not be. You'll just have to look for them. You have to decide if they're in the Bible or not. These are mom quotes from biblical mothers. David, I told you not to play with that slingshot in the house. Why don't you go practice your harp or something that might help you later in life? How about this one? Cain, quit being so rough with your brother. You're going to end up killing him one of these days. Oh, I got booed on that one. This is a tough crowd. All right, how about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? I told you not to come in this house smelling like smoke unless you're on fire. How about this famous mother? Jesus, close the front door. Do you think you were born in a barn? Well, some things don't change, do they? With moms through the years. It seems that most Mother's Day messages that we do are geared towards the mother herself, helping her kind of become a better mother, better woman, better Christian woman, those kind of things. As a matter of fact, I spoke at a mother's banquet last night with another church, and they wanted a devotional time on Proverbs 31, which is a great chapter for you to read, moms. Just it's the proverb of the virtuous woman. It has some good points and tips in there for you on some things to strive for in your life. But I thought this year I'd turn the tables a little bit, and I would talk to the rest of us, those of us who have living mothers. Now, that I know that immediately rules out a few people, but I don't want you to tune me out, because we're going to take this information and pass it on. And anytime we're talking about spiritual truths, it applies to all of us, whether we're mothers or not, just in principles and living. But my main focus this morning are those of us who have living mothers. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, we read, Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Now, a little newer translation of that, the New Living Translation says, Honor your father and mother, then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord your God is giving you. We see even Jesus honoring his mother right up to the moment of his death. We just came through the Easter season. As a church, we spent a lot of time talking about the Easter season and the quotes from the cross and things like that. But one of the last things that happened at the cross, in John 19:26, when Jesus saw his mother standing there beside the disciple he loved. Now, he's hanging on the cross at this point, already been beaten to near death, carried his cross down a long road and up Calvary's hill, has been nailed to this cross and dropped in a hole, is hanging out here in the heat of the day, nearly dead. And he looks down and he says, Dear woman, here is your son. And he said to the disciple, Here is your mother. And from then on, this disciple took her into his home. Now, can you imagine what it must have been like to be Mary standing there at the foot of this cross, and you're looking up at God's son, your son, and then Jesus looks at her and he looks at John, and while he's taking on the weight of the sin of the whole world, and he's dealing with issues like it is finished and my God, why hast thou forsaken me, and all of these other things, he looks over at John and looks at Mary and he says, Hey John, take care of my mama while I'm gone. And as far as we know, John took care of her for the rest of her life. John is one of the disciples, about the only one who lived a long, full life. The others were martyred, and John ultimately died in exile, but he lived a pretty long life, and I would think took care of Mary until her dying day. Even though he's bearing the weight of the world's sin, He's taking care of mom. Now, let me ask you a question about Jesus. Do you recall in any of his story, of his life story, that he just kind of did things off the cuff that didn't really matter? I mean, we don't really have those things recorded, do we? The kind of things he might have just sort of done off the cuff or on the side. When we see something in God's Word that Jesus did, it probably is modeling something to us that we need to take note of. Here he's modeling this important principle of honoring your mother. We could extend this to honor your father, but this is Mother's Day, so we're talking about moms today. So how do we do that? Part of my duty in equipping you, being the equipper, the principal teacher in the church, part of my duty is to open up biblical truths for you, but also part of my duty is to help you put these truths into practical practice in your daily life. And that's a little bit more what this morning is about. This is probably, I would almost call this less sermon and more of a one-on-one counseling setting. So we're sitting in my office right now and we're talking about how do we honor mom? How do we make this principle a reality in your life? And I think that this is an important principle because I don't think that you can willfully be out of relationship with your mother. You can willfully dishonor mother and have a good relationship with God at the same time. And so that might be the biblical truth that we need to work through this morning for some of us in the room. If there's something wrong with you and your mom's relationship, and it's your fault, or it's both of your fault, you're equally to blame, then you need to fix that. You need to move towards making that right, and you probably ought to start today. Here's how we honor mom. First on your list there, you honor mom verbally. She needs to hear you say that you love her, even if it's obvious. And that's hard for us guys. Those three little words make us run backwards. Most of us guys approach the whole I love you thing as in, you know I love you. If that changes, I'll let you know, right? Or we approach it like, I show you that I love you all the time. And so that's enough. Years ago, a man wrote into Dear Abby. He said how his mother would often tell him as she aged that she loved him, and I would always respond to her likewise. One day I got the call that she had slipped into a coma, and I rushed to her bedside, but it was too late. She was gone. She had always wanted to be cremated and have her ashes spread over her favorite mountaintop. I did have her cremated, but I continued to leave her urn in my house where I visit it every day and finally say, I love you. Unfortunately, it's too late. So honor mom verbally while you can. Secondly, honor mom physically. When's the last time you gave your mom a big old hug without her having to say, come over here and give me a little hug? When's the last time you just initiated that and just comforted her with your embrace? She's the first person that ever touched you. She wrapped you in her own body for 9 months. The moment that you were born, she forgot about herself and her own agony and brought you up to her chest and took care of your needs there. She counted your toes and your fingers and made sure that they were all there. And she rubbed your body to make sure that you'd be warm. And she bathed you and changed your diapers. And she held a Kleenex in her hand so that you could blow your nose in her hand. She constantly touched you. We know from numerous studies that babies who are not touched like that develop a failure to thrive syndrome, and often they quit growing and often they die. So mom was literally saving your life when she was tending to you physically. It probably mean more than all the flowers and candy in the world just to have a genuine hug from you and I love you from you. Number 3, honor her patiently. Now, moms are usually pretty spot on, but they're not perfect, and they don't always get it just right. They make mistakes along the way, and so one of the ways that you can honor her is to be patient with her through those moments. They have a tough job. It's a job that comes with no glory, a job that comes with no tangible pay. There was a poem that written called No Occupation. It says, she rises up at break of day, and through her task she races. She cooks the meals as best she may and scrubs the children's faces. While school books, lunches, homework too, all need consideration, and yet the census man insists she has no occupation. When breakfast dishes are all done, she bakes a pudding maybe. She cleans the rooms up one by one with one eye watching the baby. The mending pile she then attacks by way of variation, and yet the census man insists that she has no occupation. She irons for a little while, then presses pants for daddy. She welcomes with a cheery smile, returning lass and laddie. A hearty dinner next she cooks. There's no time for relaxation, and yet that census man insists she has no occupation. One business executive calculated that if a mother were paid cash for her services as maid, chauffeur, counselor, cook, coach, medic, handyman, landscape artist, interior decorator, fashion designer, and teacher, that her salary would have to be a minimum of $300,000 a year or $5,769.23 a week. Any of you moms want to sign up for that? So be patient. If mom gets frazzled or confused or misses something along the way. And if you have an aging mom, it's even more important than ever before. On his radio show, Focus on the Family, Dr. James Dobson, a famous Christian psychologist, read a letter from an 80-year-old woman that she wrote on her birthday, and that letter said, "To all of my children, I suppose my upcoming birthday started my thoughts along these lines. This is a good time to tell you that what I truly want are things I can never get enough of, yet they are free. I want the intangibles. I would like for you to come and sit with me and for you to be relaxed. We can talk or we can be silent. I would just like for us to be together. I need your patience when I don't hear what you say the first time. I know how tiresome it is to always be repeating, but sometimes I must ask you to repeat. I need your patience when I think too much about the past, patience with my slowness, and patience because I'm set in my ways. I want you to be tolerant with what the years have done to me physically. Please be understanding about my personal care habits. I spill things. I lose things. I get unduly excited when I try to figure out my bank statement. I can't remember what time to take my medication or if I took it already. I take too many naps. Sometimes sleep helps to pass the long, lonely days. Time, patience, and understanding. Those are the priceless gifts that I want for my birthday. Love, Mom." And I would say thank you to all of you who are here today with your mom, because that's probably what she asked for and what she really wanted from you today. And kudos to you for making good on that. Fourthly, we want to honor Mom attentively. Mothers, listen as you pour out your heart. Even as an adult, you probably still find yourself going back to Mom to just have somebody who will listen to you and not judge you. Someone who will understand and who always have your best interest at heart. Sometimes people tell you what you want to hear because they want to get something else out of you later. Sometimes people tell you something that they're trying to manipulate you so that they get something out of it later. But Mom's just always going to be encouraging. She's always going to be there for you to listen and to not judge and to always have your best interests at heart. She's always going to be on your side. I remember a few years back, a 2020 interview, I believe it was 2020 interview, that they did a documentary of 4 or 5 murderers who were on death row, and it followed their journey and their confession and their story about the murders they had committed, and followed them through their trial process all the way to the executioner's table. And as a part of those interviews, they interviewed each of these guys' mothers. And every one of them, not an exclusion, every one of them said, "He is such a good boy." The interviewer's like, But yes, ma'am, but he killed 4 people with a hammer. Yeah, but down deep, he's got a good heart. He's a good boy. So that's why we like to talk to our mom, because they always see the best in us. As we age, our anxieties and fears of the unknown and the unseen increase. They go up. We don't feel quite as invincible as we did. We're not as strong as we were. We can't see as well as we did. We can't hear as well as we did. Our balance gets a little more off. Our bones get a little more brittle. All of these things begin to happen to us as they age. Not quite as strong and fast and clear and sharp as we used to be. So you take that thought in mind of you and your life process, and you add about 20 or 30 years on top of that. And that's where your parents, where your mom is at this process in life. I get a chuckle out of my 30-year-old son. He'd be complaining about this aching and that aching and something not working right. And he says, man, I'm just falling apart as I'm aging. I said, okay, add 30 years to that, twice your age, and see how you think it's going to be. So be attentive to them, listening. Respond with that gentle assurance that, it's okay. I'm here for you. I've got you through this. That goes a long way in giving them peace of mind and security. Number 5, honor mom gratefully. She has done more and probably will do more than you will ever even be aware of. Some of it you see and some of it you know, but some of it you don't even have a clue what all she's done for you. And even as she ages to the point that she may not be able to do some things for you physically, she's still going to be your biggest advocate in prayer, in intercession between heaven and you. She's still going to love you and have your best interest at heart and be lifting you up in prayer and presenting your needs to the Lord even when she can't do other things for you physically. I saw a sweet story that was about an elementary school class, a class of 3rd graders that had studied magnets all week long in the science part of their day. They had totally talked about magnets for all 5 days, where they came from, what they did, how they attracted metal and all those kind of things. They got to Friday and the teacher put on their science quiz the question, I have 6 letters, start with M, and I pick things up. What am I? And 56% of the class said mother. So bless their little 3rd grade hearts. They were grateful, weren't they? They knew what really picked things up around the house. So honor mother, cultivate this attitude of gratefulness towards her, and it will help her and you as well. Number 6, honor mom generously. You know what? We could never repay her for all the things that she's done in her life. We could never repay all of the time and the energy and the effort, but we ought to try. As long as they're alive, we ought to try. Moms don't spend on herself until our needs are met. Moms don't have a personal schedule as long as you have a need. Moms don't eat unless you're fed first. I laughed and laughed. I was at a family gathering with Kim's family years ago, and she was at the table with all her aunts and uncles. There was about 10 of them in the Thorne family, I think. And they talked about how they used to always think that Miss Thorne, which had been Kim's grandmother, how they thought that she just loved chicken neck bones. But that's because she always let them have the good pieces of the chicken, and she just ate that old piece of scrap that was left. It's like the old math joke. Answer this question with a fraction. If 10 family members are around a table and a fresh apple pie is on the table, what fraction of the pie will each person get? The answer is 1/9, because mom won't take a piece for herself so that everybody else's piece can be a little bit bigger. So honor mom generously, and it will never be enough, and it won't last very long. That's all of your blanks, but let me give you one final note here, kind of a different note. I have no doubt that there's someone here today that would say, well, that all sounds great, but my mom is not honorable. My mom is not an honorable person. She's not worthy of my honor. Well, we got to go back to that verse. And it's from Exodus 20. Now, this is the spiritual truth for you here today. Exodus 20 is from the Ten Commandments, those great commandments of God. And it says to honor your father and mother, and then you will have a long life, a long, full life in the land the Lord your God is giving you. It's not a suggestion. It's not a qualification that if your mother is worthy of this, do this. It is just a command from the Lord God that says to honor your father and your mother. It's the only commandment of the 10 that comes with a promise tagged onto it. The others just say, just do it. This one actually says, just do it, and I'm going to give you something as a bonus on this one, a long, full life. I understand when a mom is not honorable. I've talked to many people through the years. I have seen moms who are not honorable. But as I said earlier, if your relationship with your mom is estranged or torn apart because of you, or you're an equal player in it, then you need to move to fix that. At least try. And God will honor that try as an honor to your mom. If the problem is truly your mom's fault and you had nothing to do with it, maybe she abandoned you, or whatever, if the problem is really your mom's fault and mom doesn't want to fix that or have anything to do with you, then you've got to resolve that in your heart and just let God have that and let His Spirit work on mom. You can't fix that. And you're not expected to fix that. But at the very minimum, you can honor her in your heart that she at least gave you life. Without her, you wouldn't be. And so she gave you life, and you just find honor in your heart for that and say, God, I can't fix all the rest of the mess that there is with her, but you fix it if you want to. And if it never gets fixed, it's still off of you because you've already done the right part in your own heart. I want to give you one last illustration from my own life, and I'm going to be real careful with this because I don't want to cause my own mother any pain who is here. So I've thought through several times how to do this because I think this is an important point. I probably should have talked to you in advance, Mom, so either put your fingers in your ears or forgive me in advance. But my mother's mother and my mother's father were not ever really a part of my life. Their life chose a path, had a lot of alcohol in it, a lot of fussing and cussing and carrying on, smoking, ranting, raging, that kind of stuff. They weren't mean, vile people. Their path just took a rough path. I didn't even know my grandfather because he died while she was pregnant with me. I believe it was a drunk driving accident, and he was the drunk. My grandmother, and this is the part I don't want to hurt you. As far as I know, I don't remember. I know she did because she's a good human being. But as far as I can remember, and I've honestly searched my brain, I don't remember one nice thing from her. Either a word or an encouragement or a gift or anything. I remember the cussing and the fussing and the smoking and throwing a pot in the pan every once in a while. I remember some of that. Or tell him to get back there to that back room because he's so loud. I remember that phrase several times. But I don't remember anything nice or good. She died on Thanksgiving Day when I was, I think, 12 years old, somewhere around there. Died young, too, because of the lifestyle choices. So she had 3 daughters. One of those daughters, even though she was a good person too, she followed some of that same path. And so she died very young. And her 2 children followed the same path, and they died young. They should be my age now, but they've been gone for decades now. To me, that is just insanity. But those other two sisters, my mother and my sweet Aunt Doris, they decided that this whole generational thing, that stops here. That ends now. And they found them two good old hard-working farm boys, Rusty and Jerry. And they married them around the same times. And they loved them until their death when they both died, I think within a year of each other. Aunt Doris had 3 daughters. Liz had 2 sons. All 5 of us are still alive. One is a very happy housewife for a veterinarian and their family together. One is a very successful realtor and mortgage broker. One is a very successful pilot and manages a regional airport. One is a successful police chief of a county seat town. And one is an okay preacher. Now that's changing a branch on your family tree. So everything about your life up to this point may just stink. And I'm so sorry that it does. But you can change it today. You can build a new branch on your family tree, or you can chop the whole dadgum tree down and plant a new one. Whatever you need to do. But it's on you now. Moms and dads, it's on you from this point forward, because you've heard some truth from God's word and you've been here to hear it. Would you bow your heads and close your eyes with me? Mother's Day comes with joy, but it also comes with pain, because there's always a church full of people who have strained relationships, or mothers who have gone on to glory, or there's just all kinds of stories. Mothers who have lost children and all of those kind of things. But I guess what the invitation is today, in just a moment I'm going to pray and we're going to stand and sing a song of invitation. The reason we call it an invitation is because we are truly inviting you to respond with your heart to whatever God has spoken to your heart today. And maybe He has said to you that you need to be so grateful of your mom and honoring to her. And you need to take some bold steps in making that happen today. Maybe He has said to you that there's nothing you can do to fix the relationship with your mom or with your child. And you need to just move on from this day and resolve it in your heart and let Him do the rest of the work that needs to be done. Or maybe today is the day that you need to boldly say, I am changing my family tree today. I'm going to pray for you. And then we're going to stand and sing. And I'm going to be here. If you want to come share with me, I'd love to pray with you about it. Or you might just want to come to this altar and spend a minute on your knees with the Lord. Whatever your need is, it's your invitation to respond. God, I pray right now that you'll give us the courage to take the bold steps in our life that you've called us to do, so that we might be right with you. Even if everything else falls apart, or if everything else is wonderful, either way, we want to be right with you. And so give us the courage to do that today. In your holy name I pray. Amen. Let's stand together and let's